Welcome back, everyone. It is December 1st, 2025. Yes, the last month of the year. Crazy. And what a year it's been. All right, let's jump into this, right? Let's see here. Boop. Now, last we left off, we were probably in this section right over here. If you look at the last video that I made before the Thanksgiving holiday, and what I was talking about was it coming up to this area. And lo and behold, holy shnikes, did it do exactly what I was hoping it would do. Now, I mentioned this before, and this is important. Ready? This section right over here, I was saying it looks like we are doing the same exact thing over here. Now, I said that in the previous video, and it's important to understand this. We had a small break of structure right over here. It popped up. It tested the second break of structure. This was the big one that it needed to pass to get over here. And it failed. And then it dropped pretty hardcore, right? So here, again, it came over here to this break of structure. It broke through. It never touched this line, but it struggled in this area. And then we had a hardcore drop down. So this was a good reference for this section. Now, I was saying that I was hoping that it would come up here and that it would come back down here to test this area, take this candle out. This is what I was looking for. So far, so good. I was able to take a short in this area. Notice the red area. Notice where the wick ended up coming up. And yeah, that's where I got my short. Now, I want to zoom in here so you can take a look at some of what happened during this holiday. So this was holiday time. Let's see here. This whole section right here bled into the weekend. It was a holiday plus the weekend. Now, right over here, this section right here, this was the weekend. The volume died. Almost a straight line here. It didn't really go anywhere. And again, this is an example on why I don't trade the weekend, because the weekend gets a little funny. And then this was the beginning of Sunday. It looked like it was going to pop up and retest, and it did not. It completely failed. As soon as the market turned on, right before the market turned on Sunday night, it just did this hardcore dump. So now let's look at this spot right here. So first of all, I hope you can see the break of structures area. So this was the area right here that it needed to break. Okay, this was the first break of structure. And it was struggling. It came up above, and then it popped right through. And notice that it has not touched this area. It broke through without retouching. So yeah, so this is considered a failed, a failed attempt or a fake out, whatever one you want to call it, whatever. So, but either way, some people made some money on the way up, and hopefully you took some profit along the way. Now, why did I decide to take in this section? Well, first of all, I marked this out in advance. This was the area, this red area was the area that I was hoping that I can grab a short in, and it ended up working out. And what I was looking at was this right here, this little cluster right here, and this cluster right over here, okay? Now, the worst case scenario was that this candle broke through both of them, knocking this guy out and reaching up for right over here. But I had a problem with this section. The reason why I have a problem with this section is because this is kind of a slope, and this is actually the candle right over here. So I felt if we did break this right here and we popped up over this right here, looking at that candle right there, if we did pop up over that one, then my whole idea of this section would be invalidated. So I was willing to take that that hit. But I was watching this over the weekend. I saw this candle get hit, and it took out this section right over here. But then it took like a really big drop, right? And on the weekend, it was struggling right over here. So really, this was my target for my short. But what I decided to do was I decided to get in, and then my idea was that I was going to DCA in probably somewhere around here. So I was able to catch the short with my first entry, and I think I added on to it when, actually, I think I was right here at first, and then I added on, which knocked me down here. But yeah, this is how I was looking at this section and decided to get in. So the idea of it struggling was a big deal. The other thing is, if you notice this pattern, check this out, right? We've got this right here, like this, and look, this is what I've been drawing before. Now, it took a really serious hardcore drop, but this is the change change. This is a change of direction that we're looking for, right? Anytime there is like going to be a change, there's usually like this flat line that goes through. So if we were dropping down below, it would look like that. And in this set here, in this range, there usually would be some kind of manipulation, either up or down. And that's what this is right over here. That's the manipulation. Okay. In fact, if I were to, you know, draw this like that, we actually have some wicks that come a little bit down below, but this was the major one that said we might be shifting into a different direction, right? So that's on the lower time frame. On the bigger time frame though, you can see that this was a nice little relief that we had from this big drop. Now we did test this right over here. We tested this, we broke structure right over here, and notice kind of like where we are right now. This is kind of the order block that we are in, right? But I still feel that we need to come over here to take this candle out. And especially the fact that people were really bullish, like, hey man, this is going to go to the moon, right? Or, you know, they're feeling really bearish. This is a time that this is kind of the war area, right? So what I am looking for right now is I am looking for a range to form out. This is the spot that we are in right now. This is the range. This is completely the range, right? This being the top of the range, and this being the bottom of the range. So this is the zone that we're in right now. Now, if it comes down over here, it definitely can drop down lower, build some support, and then kind of come up like this. So that's truly what I'm hoping for. Now, let's take another look here, because there's one other thing that I wanted to show you as far as like this range that it made during this holiday. I made this dotted line over here. This dotted line, I looked all the way to the left here, just like so. And if you notice, this dotted line actually has some wicks that are touching it, like right over here. So this to me was previous support, right? And then it broke through, it came above. And then on this side over here, this is basically us testing that support resistance, right? So this was another reason why I chose this section. That's another reason why I chose this section, because there is a bunch of candles that are kind of on this line. Not only that, but this is the golden pocket on the downside, right? So yeah, so far so good. I got this yellow line here. I'm actually looking for, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this to come over here, something like this, right? So this is, let me mark this out. Pull this out right here. This is, I'm going to shoot for this as a target. Okay, so let me write that in there. Target. Let's go. Man, it's black. There we go. Yeah, no, I don't like that. Let me decorate this a little bit. Let's go green. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's just do that. Okay, so this is my target. The reason why it's my target is because if this is a range and there's going to be some kind of manipulation that happens, at this point, once we break this line, this is when everyone's going to go nuts. This is when massive sells are going to happen, and all sorts of people are going to be like, yeah, we're going down to, you know, 8K. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for this candle to be taken out. This is my candle. This is my target. So if it were to come over here, tap down and drop a little bit, and then the candle, actually the candle body closes above, right? So meaning like we can have like this really solid, we'll have a solid candle body here. This can wick however far down it wants to. I don't really care about the wick too much as the candle body. So if the candle body closes above, then you know, there's a possibility that we will move back up, and this would be considered manipulation. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a candle to come into this section, which I will try to long in this section right over here. All right. So yeah. So here is my short, and I've taken profit along the way. I actually put my card in here so you guys can see, because maybe you don't believe me, but here's my short, and this was my profit that I took on there. So that ended up working out, which I'm pretty happy about. Now let's go jump over into Ethereum. Ethereum, I also took a short. Now remember, whatever happens on Bitcoin will happen on Ethereum, right? So here's the weekend action. And notice that we popped up right over here. This was the section we were looking at in the last video. So I was looking at this this green area right here and for it to possibly pop over, and it did. But I didn't take the short right away. What I did was I waited because it was the weekend. I wanted to see exactly what it was going to do. And as soon as it popped up over here and started to reject, that's when I actually entered into my short. Because looking over at Bitcoin, I noticed that, hey, this is going to work out. I think it's going to work out. And I ended up taking the short on Ethereum. And here is my profit that I've taken. Actually, I'm a lot higher now. I've taken some profit along the way. I think I'm close to 100%. So the mix of the two in this small section, I have 1x'd my little bit over 1x'd. No, maybe almost like 1.5x'd my entries because I got into both sections, right? So what I'm looking for on Ethereum is I'm looking for Ethereum to drop a lot harder because it's had some strength along the way. And what I'd be looking for is I'd be looking for it to take out this wick right over here. This is the wick I'm looking for. That's the one right there. So this is really my target. And what I'm looking for is for it to find some kind of support. If it drops down over here, find some support over here and kind of works its way up. If it does break a lot lower, then, you know, my plan will change. But that's what I'm shooting for right now. And the same thing goes with the other, same thing goes with Bitcoin. Okay. We are on a serious downtrend here. Look at that. Let's just see if this is in a channel. Yeah. Looks like it's in a channel. So if it comes down over here, look at that. It would be touching this. It could wick underneath and then come back over and then pop up. So yeah, so that's what I'm looking for on Ethereum. That's my plan right now, is hopefully it gets down low enough. In fact, what I'll do is I will move this up just a little bit and pull this down just a little. Let me see what this is. This is kind of my alert area. Oh my gosh, no, that's a tremendous gap. Let's see. No way. Let's just drop that lower. Let's find out what this is. Let's be a little bit more realistic about this, huh? So if I pull this out over here, and let's go right over here to this wick. Let's pull it down probably a little bit like that. Let's do that. Let's check what this is now. Yikes, that's still large. Let's go here. Let's see. I'm looking for a 2%er. So something like this. Let's go. That's just such a large gap. Yeah, I'll leave it like that. This is what I'll leave it like. This is what I'm looking for right there. Okay, if it comes down into the section, I'm going to be very, very careful about making an entry here. Okay, so I will use Bitcoin as my trigger to see if it's worth getting in here or leaving. Oh, look at this. Look at this candle. Oh, hello. Let's pull this out a little bit. Am I within there? Oh yeah, that's the spot. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I think that's the spot right there. I hope you're able to follow along with this as I go through. I'm showing you where I'm actually finding some of these areas to kind of get into and what my plans are way, way in advance, right? Because it's important to, let's check this one while we're at it. Let's see what this is. Oh my gosh, that's a huge, huge gap there. Let's drop this by half. Let's drop it like that. Let's do that. There we go. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm all right with that. We're going to stick with that. That's the area right there. So I will pay attention to this area right over here. This is the target that I'm looking for. If we drop low, I will most likely shoot for a long to kind of like get this to over here. Again, we've got this pretty hardcore downtrend and, you know, people are feeling super fearful. And this is when you've got to grab some strength and figure out exactly like, okay, do I follow, you know, what people are saying or do I do something against the market? There is this saying that I hold on to. I actually wrote it in my book. It says, the good trade is always the hard trade because it's emotionally difficult. So hopefully that's something that you can hold on to, because that, when the market is in fear, yeah, that's when you got to be the strongest, because you are probably fearing the same thing. So disconnect a little bit and see what the plan is. Let's go take a look at the S&P 500 real quick. I'll just snap over there to see what's going on. Okay, yeah. So we hit that top of the range, like I was mentioning. So you know, looks like we're kind of on this down. Look at these scribbles that I'm making. That's so silly. Okay, it more looks like this. All right. Yeah, that's kind of a weird one. Okay, so looks like we're on we've got a lower, a higher low, higher low, higher low. Okay, yeah. So this is the range. This is the range. So far, so good. Can we come down to the middle of the range? Yeah. Let's see what happens when it gets down to the middle of the range, because it could pop up again. We can bounce around here for quite some time, like this, and then back down, and then right here, and then maybe we break. So maybe that's more like it. I'm not sure. We'll see. All right, guys. Hopefully you got my plans. Definitely look back at my old videos so you can see what my plans were from the beginning. I mean, you know, this is not something where, you know, I'm giving you information last minute. This whole plan was set out way in advance, and now I've got a new plan that I'm working on. So have a good one, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.